Mr. Pretorius, good morning, everybody.
Morning, Chair.
Are we ready?
Yes, Mr. Nkosana will give evidence. He has returned to give evidence following the intervention of several weeks. May he be sworn.
Lapsed, although it's a continuation of his evidence.
Please state your full name for the record.
Mpolisi Sandile Oliver Masana.
Do you have any objection with making the prescribed affirmation?
No, I don't.
Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you will give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, I truly affirm.
I truly affirm.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pretorius.
We've taken the liberty, Chair, and if I may deal with two housekeeping matters,
Yes.
of transforming your original file into a larger file which you have in front of you.
Yes.
Originally, we dealt with exhibits EE1 and EE2.
Yes.
They've been taken from your original file and placed in that Lever Arch
Oh,
file.
so everything is here.
Yes. We've added further documents. EE3 is an affidavit of the former president, which contents need to be commented on by Mr. Nkosana during the course of his evidence today.
Yes.
EE4 is a timeline of events relevant to the evidence of Mr. Nkosana, covering the period towards the end of 2014 and the beginning of 2015. Attached to that timeline are documents relevant to items on the timeline. They are duplicates. They can be extracted from the file, or one can go to the original documentation which is referenced in the timeline. And EE5, just for convenience, is the transcript of Mr. Nkosana's evidence when he was recently before the Commission.
Yes. I wonder whether EE5 shouldn't have been separate, because it's just to remind us what he said, but maybe that can be dealt with later.
It can be separated quite
Yeah.
conveniently. We can do that during the course of the day. It's not separately indexed or paginated.
Yes. Okay, no, that's fine. You might wish to consider whether, if you don't already have in this bundle, you should include a memorandum that I think Mr. Nkosana sent to the Minister of Justice sometime in I think July 2014 or August, I'm not sure, where he was asking the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development or Correctional Services to ask the President at the time to consider suspending Ms. Jiba, Mr. Mhwebi, and Ms. Mzinyati, and setting out in very great detail what the basis was, in his view, on which the President should consider acting. That affidavit is something that's in the public domain. I mean, that memorandum. It was part of the record in the Corruption Watch matter, CASAC matter, that went all the way from the High Court to the Constitutional Court. And then also there may be other documents, but I think that might be important. So that's just for you to consider.
Yes, Chair. The memorandum that you have referred to is referred to in the evidence, but it
Yes.
is not attached.
Yes.
We shall get it
Okay.
perhaps today.
Okay. Thank you.
Then there's a second matter, Chair, before we commence. On the 24th of June, Rule 33 notice was sent to attorneys whom, in our understanding, represented Mr. Mkhwebe, Advocate Mkhwebe, and to a private email address. Then on the 30th of July, on the 31st of July, and again on the 8th of August, 3 notices were sent to Advocate Mkhwebe informing him of the change of date and this appearance today on the 19th of August. In correspondence at this time, it emerged that it was Advocate Mkhwebe's contention that he didn't receive the original emails sent on 24th of June with the 3-3 notice. On discovering that, I asked for the matter to be investigated. The 3-3 notice has now been sent. The question arises what we do in the circumstances, but as I'm assured by the investigators who've collated all the documentation, that everything that is going to be said by Mr. Nkosana is a matter of public record, and therefore there should be no prejudice, but insofar as there is, we can hear from Mr. Mkhwebe and deal with it at that stage.
Yes. He knows that Mr. Nkosana is giving evidence today.
He does, Chair.
Yeah. And Ms.
That's been confirmed 3 times.
Yes, and Ms. Jiba also knows.
Yes, Chair.
We, in respect of Ms. Jiba, you will remember that when Mr. Nkosana came to give evidence last time, Ms. Jiba's counsel came and certain arrangements were made. I wonder whether in the meantime there's been any application for leave to cross-examine Mr. Nkosana that has come from Ms. Jiba. Do you know?
No, I'm not aware of any such correspondence. Simply the communication from Mr. Ngolwana that he wasn't on record as representing, but did it simply on request at the last hearing.
Yes.
Advocate Jiba is represented by attorneys, and communications have been
Yes.
made
Yes.
to those attorneys.
Okay. No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
May we then proceed?
Yes, but maybe before we do so, Mr. Nkosana, you expressed a concern last time. Has it been sorted out in relation to being a sole practitioner?
Not yet, Chair.
But were you informed of the legal provisions that make it possible for any witness appearing before the commission to get witness fees?
No, I think I saw that when I think the Chair made a pronouncement after I had given testimony. I think,
Yes.
during the subsequent proceedings. I don't know who was testifying on that day. Yes.
But have you had time to put in a request for payment or claim or anything?
No, I haven't. I told myself I'll do that after
Oh,
today.
okay, no. No, I was just concerned because you raised that concern as a sole practitioner.
Yes.
So that can be, you can pursue that in due course.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Pretorius.
Yes, our information is that the particular provision has been communicated to Mr. Nkosana, but
Yes,
we
okay.
can talk about that.
Okay.
If you,
I can't remember how far we had gone last time, but I know that it may be that certain paragraphs were being skipped because of the arrangement or whatever. I can't
yes, what we did at the last hearing, and we will refer again to those matters briefly in course of evidence today, was to halt just before the long adjournment at a stage where there was mention of a recording. And it was your instruction that we should listen to the recording to see if it was of any value and added significantly to the evidence. Our conclusion, by the way, has been that it doesn't, and we don't have to put the recording before you, although there has been a request for it and we will provide it.
Or you say you have taken the view that it doesn't
It
add
doesn't
much.
add materially to the
Yes.
actual evidence
Yes.
given, because it's indirect.
Oh, okay. But it is available.
It is available if
Yes.
anyone wants to
Yeah.
hear it, and we've had a request and we will accede to that
Yeah,
request.
Okay.
So that was the stage at which we halted evidence. Then there was the intervention on behalf of Advocate Jiba. And at that stage, what we did was we went to the Constitutional Court judgment and dealt with matters already in the public domain that were on affidavit and had been adjudicated by the Constitutional Court, and we went through the judgment of the Constitutional Court in relation to issues relevant to the evidence, and then we stopped.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to go back, by your leave, Chair, to page 7 of your statement. Mr. Nkosana, would you put the microphone closer to you, please, and perhaps speak up a little?
Not too close, I think move it back again. Yeah, I think that then it should be fine.
And if we could rewind a little and go to paragraph 33,
Yes.
where you said in evidence on the previous occasion you were here, and you say in paragraph 33 that almost immediately after you were appointed, you received information from 2 NPA officials that Advocates Jiba and Mkhwebi were plotting to oust you. Do you see that in paragraph 33?
Yes, Chair, I see that.
And you comment there that this information was volunteered to you by these persons of their own accord.
That is correct, Chair.
Would you tell the Chair, please, of the information given to you by Mr. Terence Joubert?
Chair,
Who is he, firstly, and then what did he tell you?
Mr. Joubert is a risk specialist at NPA, attached to that unit based in Durban, at the NPA offices in Durban. I had not met him when he sent me an email. He sent me an affidavit via email. In that email, he told me of the arrangement that he had where he was supposed to go and pick up Advocate Jiba from the airport.
All right, before you continue, that affidavit, would you look at Annexure MN1 at page 30, please, of the EE1.
Yes, I see.
Is that the affidavit that he sent to you?
That is correct, Chair.
All right. Briefly, what did he say in the affidavit?
Briefly, Chair, he said that he received a telephone call after arrangements were made for him to go and pick up Advocate Jiba from the airport. He said he got a call from Advocate Jiba's secretary that it was not going to be him, Joubert, who was going to pick up Advocate Jiba from the airport, and the arrangement was that it was now going to be Colonel W.S. Mhlongo was going to pick her up from the airport. Then in a nutshell, the affidavit went on to say that Colonel Mhlongo told Joubert that Advocate Jiba had said to him that I'm not a good person to be appointed as a national director at NPA, and that he must try and get any dirt about me, and then I think that was the whole plan. If I may refresh my memory.
Yes, you may do that.
If you go to paragraph 36.3, it may not be clear on the record.
Yeah.
Who said what to whom, according to the report made by Mr. Joubert to you?
He said Colonel Mhlongo disclosed to Joubert that Advocate Jiba told him that she did not think that I was the correct person for the job of the NDPP. And according to Mhlongo, Jiba said Colonel Mhlongo, he told Colonel Mhlongo that Advocate Jiba and Mkhwebi should try, they told him that he should try to find some dirt on me as they had done it against Mr. Stanley Gumede. Mr. Stanley Gumede is a regional court magistrate based in Durban who was tipped to become the National Director of Public Prosecutions before I was appointed. And this affidavit tells us that they, according to what Joubert said in the affidavit, Jiba and Mkhwebi were instrumental in making sure that Mr. Gumede was not appointed as the National Director of Public Prosecutions because he was subsequently flooded with complaints and was then investigated by the Magistrates Commission. And the President, as a result of that, decided not to appoint him. Then it also went on to suggest that Colonel Mhlongo disclosed to Joubert that they had to follow up to some information that I had embezzled or misappropriated clients' trust monies which were paid by the Road Accident Fund. And that information, it surfaces during the conversation in the recording that Mr. Pretorius has referred to.
In any event, this is what Mr. Joubert says on oath in his affidavit annexed,
That is correct.
and
Chair.
you've summarized it.
Yes,
Am I correct?
that is correct, Chair.
So what you have spoken about now is attested to on oath by Mr. Joubert in Annexure MN1.
That is correct, Chair.
And you just referred now to the recording.
Yes,
In the recording, is it Mr. Joubert and Colonel Mhlongo who were talking?
that is correct, Chair.
And that is also in Joubert's affidavit, or does the conversation go beyond?
No, the conversation in the recording is that it's Colonel Mhlongo talking to Joubert. He was not aware that Joubert was recording him.
Yes.
Then Joubert sent me that recording.
Yes.
In the recording, Mhlongo was telling him that Jiba wanted me out of my position, and that they must work hard and to get something on me especially the issue of the road accident fund. And Jubei had promised him to hook him up with people from the road accident fund who were going to give him information about my misappropriation of trust funds, which something that has never happened. I've never even had a complaint of misappropriation of trust monies arising from the road accident fund.
Mr. Pretorius, you have told me what the view is that the legal team has taken off the recording, unless there is some requirement that hasn't been met, procedural requirement in terms of people. I would like to hear the recording.
Sure. We've got it available.
Yes.
I asked for a transcript to be made. That should be
Yes.
available as well.
Yeah.
The recording is less direct, though,
Yeah.
than the affidavit.
Yeah.
And we've chosen to rely on the affidavit,
Yeah.
but I understand that
Yeah.
in the light of what has just been said, perhaps it's advisable.
Yeah.
And we'll make arrangements to do that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Let's then move on to your assumption or belief expressed in paragraph 38 concerning the intention that was attributed to you in regard to reinstating criminal charges against the former president. Would you tell the chair about that and what you believe that advocates Jiba and Mkhwebi advised in that regard?
Chair, I believed that Advocate Jiba and Mkhwebi, in running their campaign to get me removed from the NPA, they also peddled some misinformation to the president that I intended to reinstate charges against him. That I say because every corner that I went to, I was confronted by the same question. In Durban, here in Gauteng, everywhere, people were asking me that they hear that the reason why the president wants me out, it's because he was told that I intended to reinstate charges against him, which is something that I had not even formulated the intention to do because I had not even seen that docket itself. The docket at the time still remained with Advocate Jiba, and she had not given the docket to me.
This is now, what, more than 8 months since after you had started as NTPP, you still hadn't been given that docket.
That is correct, Chair.
Yeah. Had you asked for it or you hadn't asked for it?
I never even asked for the docket.
Yes,
I
yes.
did not even see the docket myself.
Yes.
Because it was very strange, because soon after I was appointed, it was very strange of the president to behave in the manner that he behaved. Because all of a sudden he had an attitude against me. He didn't want to see me at all. And I got that from reliable sources, people very close to him. Because everyone was now offering to hook me up with the president, which I found it very strange. And this is what I got from all those people who were offering to hook me up with the president. And some of the people were very close to the president. Yeah. And that is also evidenced by the fact that you'll see as we continue with our with the evidence that the president was reluctant. He didn't want to see me up to the point that I had to bring an interdict when he wanted to suspend me, and I insisted that I wanted to see him so that you can discuss before he can take this drastic step.
It's strange why people would want to hook you up with the president when you were appointed by the president,
Yes.
and if he needed to discuss anything with you, he could ask you to see him anytime. And if you wanted to discuss anything with him, you could also request to meet him.
Yes, Chair, it was very strange, and it was a very trying moment for me, because soon after I got this rumor that the president wanted to, that I wanted to reinstate charges against the president, and that the president had this attitude, I contacted the person who was the legal advisor at the time, Mr. Halley. And I remember I had to chase him also. At one point, because I live in Midrand, I had to stop him on N1. That is where there is that restaurant, the Bridge Restaurant. We had to stop, I stopped him there, and I related to him that I have a problem. The things that I'm hearing, that the president doesn't want to see me. And can you please arrange a meeting so that you can meet with the president? And all the time, even when I met him in Durban, I would also meet him in Durban, and I will tell him the same thing. And he'll assure me that, no, the president is very comfortable with your work. There is nothing, don't worry about those rumors. And strangely, he was the same person who then approached me. I was hosting a delegation, African delegation of prosecutors in Sentin. And he was the one who then came that night to break the news that, look, the president has decided to institute a commission of inquiry into your fitness to hold office, without having met the president at that time. Then I said, well, if he has decided, if he has taken a decision, there's nothing then that I can say. And that meeting lasted not even more than 5 minutes. Then we parted ways.
Yes, thank you.
In paragraph 39, Mr. Nkasana, you refer to a meeting between yourself and the president at a flat in Durban. Would you tell the chair, please, what happened at that meeting?
It's not a meeting at a flat in Durban, but I'm referring to a flat in Durban here. At a meeting that I had with the president, one of the meetings, after I subsequently had meetings with him, that was after I had instituted that interdict. And we agreed to halt the interdict, and we then started the negotiations. It's one of the meetings that I had with him, where after I explained myself to him that I'm aware of all this campaign, I told him of all this campaign. This campaign started before I even came to the office, after he had made the announcement that I was appointed as the NDPP. Then I remember he said to me, you know, one of the things people have told him about me is that I was meeting Mr. Nguga Bulela Nguga, who is the first national director of public prosecution. And he said the information that he had is that I was meeting Nguga at a certain flat in Durban, and those people were even prepared to go and show him the flat where Nguga and I would meet. And he then said to me, you know, Mfanagit, once a person mentions the name of that person, of Nguga, I simply go crazy, because that person, referring to Mr. Nguga, he hates him. Nguga hates the president.
Right,
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Pretorius. Are you saying that at that meeting,
Yes.
you actually told the president about the campaign which you came to know after assuming duty as NDPP, that you say was being pursued by Ms. Jiba and Mr. Mkhwebi,
That is correct, Chair.
including, did you also tell him about what Mr. Yube's affidavit says, or not in detail?
Chair, I would have told him as well, everything. And because I remember that I gave him also the recording I gave him, the recording that
Oh,
you're
you
talking
gave him the
about.
recording?
Yes, the affidavit I gave him.
Mr. Yobe's affidavit?
Yes, I
Yes.
gave him a liver akfai.
Yes.
Yes.
And this meeting that you are talking about, are you able to remember around about when it was?
Chair, I won't be in a position to remember
To
that
remember.
meeting
Yeah.
because I
But you brought the application to interdict your, I think, your suspension.
yes, before I,
You brought
met
that
him.
application sometime in 2014, isn't it?
Yes, in 2014,
In
yes.
the second half of the year.
Yes,
Yes. So your meeting with him would have been in the second half of 2014.
that is correct.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you.
So if we may just summarize for the record, Mr. Nkosana, during the latter months of 2014, you met with the former president.
That is correct.
At that meeting, you would have informed him of details of what you refer to as the campaign to have you removed or not appointed as National Director of Public Prosecution.
That is correct, Chair.
Amongst those details would have been the information given to you by Mr. Joubert, to which you've just testified.
That is correct, Chair.
One of the matters that was discussed at the meeting with the President is referred to in paragraph 39 of your affidavit,
That is correct, Chair.
and it is apparent that the President had been told that you had been meeting with the former director of the NDPP, Advocate Bulelani Nguka,
That is correct, Chair.
and you told the President correctly, as I understand it, that this was false information and the President was being misled by someone.
That is correct. Even more so because even to this date, I've never even talked with Mr. Nguka. We've never even met. We've never even exchanged pleasantries for that matter.
What did you conclude in relation to the conduct of Advocates Jibo and Machwebi and your appointment or continued occupation of the post of NDPP?
I'm sorry, Mr. Pretorius, I'm interrupting you. Before we get there, I'm still interested in your meeting with the President at that time. You tell him these things, and he tells you that he had been told that you were meeting with Mr. Nguka in a flat in Durban.
Yes, Chair.
Now, you said earlier on that you had heard rumors
Yes.
that the President had been told that you were going to reinstate charges against him.
Yes.
Now, the information that the President told you at that meeting, namely that he had been told that you were meeting with Mr. Bulelani Nguka in a flat in Durban, appears to me to suggest that he may have been told, indeed, that you were considering reinstating charges against him. Because remember that Mr. Bulelani Nguka was the NDPP who was the first NDPP,
Yes, Chair.
and there have been judgments that deal with things relating to him and the former president and so on. So did he indicate whether he had also been told that you were considering reinstating charges against him? Or did he not go that far?
No, he didn't go that far, Chair.
Yes. Yes. It seems to me that if he was told that you were meeting with Mr. Nguga, and if he didn't like that, it's possible that he might have thought that maybe you were considering something like that, or it may be that as part of the story. Otherwise, why would it be relevant that he be told that you were meeting with Nguga? Are you able to say anything?
That was my conclusion, Chair.
That was your conclusion
That was my
too?
conclusion, Chair. In
Yes.
fact, to me, when he said that, to me, it appeared as a confirmation of what I was telling him, that I was aware of the rumor that is making rounds, because I told him that I'm aware of the rumor that's making round, and I know that it's Advocate Jiban Mkhwebi who told him that that I intended to reinstate charges against him.
So you did tell him that
Yes.
one part of the rumors that you had heard
Yes.
was that he had been told that you were going to reinstate charges
Yes,
against
I
him.
did tell him.
Yeah. And what was his reaction to that part?
And one of the reaction was that he was told that, that he was told that I'm meeting with Mr. Nguga in a certain flat in Durban, and those people were even prepared to go and show me. In fact, Chair, the whole scenario branded me as a person who was prepared to even do anything. I remember when we tried to have another meeting, a follow-up meeting. I think some people picked up that we were meeting, because the first meeting that we had the meeting in the King's House in Durban.
Yes.
And I think some people must have picked up, or that information must have leaked, that he acceded to meeting me, and I got the impression that there were people who were putting pressure on him that he should not meet with me.
Yes.
I remember at one point that when he was reluctant to meet with me, I said to one of the persons that was close to him that he must not worry, because he was told that the information that I was given is that I would come there wired and I would be
To record him.
to record him. And I even joked and said to that person, go and tell him that I don't mind meeting him naked, because I won't have wires with me.
Okay. So, but when you said to him, you had been told that he had been told, or you had a rumor that he had been told that you were going to reinstate charges against him. Did he deny having been told that?
He neither denied nor admit. He didn't deny.
Neither denied nor admitted, but he
Yes.
responded by saying he had been told that you were meeting
I'm
with
meeting
Mr.
with
Nguga
Mr. Nguga.
in a flat in Durban.
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, all right, thank you. I interrupted you, Mr. Pretorius, when
Yes,
you wanted
Chair.
him to talk about...
Clearly, from the exchange now, it appears clear that the misinformation concerning the reinstatement of criminal charges and the misinformation as alleged in relation to the meetings with the former NDPP are indeed related and consistent as in misinformation.
Maybe just to round this off, I'm not sure if I understood correctly. When you were speaking to him, that is the president, and telling him about the rumors that you had heard, did you say, a few minutes ago, did you say that you told him that you knew who had told him that?
That is correct, Chair.
Who did you say you knew had told him that?
I told him that I knew it was Jiba in Mkhwebi.
And what was his reaction to that part?
He didn't
He didn't
deny.
say anything.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You make some comments expressing your own views about these circumstances in paragraph 40, Was there any reason you could not have worked together with Advocate Jiba in the NDPP?
Chair, even now, and people that are very close to me, I always tell them that my view was that, and I've told Jiba herself, that there was no reason that Jiba and I couldn't work together professionally. And I still hold the same view even to this day. But I came to the conclusion that the reason why, taking into consideration the affidavit deposed to by Joubert and the recordings, it became very clear to me that Jiba was resentful, because in that affidavit you'll see that Colonel Mhlongo says that it's not, Jiba said it's not that he hates me or she hates me or she's against me, because she didn't know me. And I always tell people that she had no reason to hate me. I don't hate Jiba. She doesn't hate me because we didn't know each other. But the problem is that she was acting in that position for a long period, I think of a year. And the hopes had been created. And I then got information that when I was appointed, the Minister of Justice then, Minister Khatebe, Mr. Khatebe, Jeff Khatebe, had promised her that he was going to recommend her, such that I was told that he had prepared a memorandum to the President. In fact, that information I was told by Mr. Hali himself, that the reason why Jiba is acting the way she's acting is because Mr. Khatebe had prepared an affidavit. He was
A memorandum.
a memorandum recommending Advocate Jiba for the position.
And you say this information you were given by Mr. Hali,
Mr. Hali himself, yes.
who was legal advisor to the
To
President.
the President, yes.
Yes. Mhm. So, am I correct in understanding you to be saying that you don't think now, and you didn't think then, that whatever Ms. Jiba might have done against you in terms of the campaign that you say she was pursuing, you say it wasn't because she hated you?
Yes, Chair,
It was simply because she wanted the position to which you had been appointed,
that is correct,
which
sir.
she had hoped would be given to her.
That is correct,
That's
Chair.
what you are saying.
Yes, sir, it wasn't personal.
It was not personal.
It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal at all. I think
Yes.
all that she was doing, in fact, in the affidavit, if one reads the affidavit of Joubert, he says that Colonel Mhlongo told him that Jiba said they'll do what they had done to
Mr. Stanley Gumede.
to Mr. Gumede. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. She had no reason really to dig. The only thing that she was interested in, and the affidavit even says so, that if I am, in fact, in the affidavit of Joubert, he says, Advocate Jiba said it was not her intention to embarrass me, but to find debt against me so that the President will take a decision to remove me and she'll stand a chance to get appointed. Or to continue acting as the NDPP.
So we'll come back to that after the short adjournment, Chair. We have now a transcript of a portion of the relevant portion of the conversation, and
Okay.
we will play it and
Okay.
come back to these issues after the short adjournment. How, in your mind, did this campaign, as you've referred to it, culminate? In what event did this campaign culminate? You refer to that in paragraph 41.
This whole campaign, Chair, culminated in the President taking a decision to establish a commission of inquiry to look into my fitness to hold office of the National Director of Public Prosecutions.
And during your period of office as NDPP, what was the state of affairs within the organization? And what steps did you take to deal with what you found?
Chair, as a result of all what was going on in this campaign, I felt also that some staff, senior staff members or staff, NPA staff, were being used to pursue this campaign, which I found unacceptable. And this was, I remember there was a time also where I listened on Radio 702, a guy who was employed at NPA, his name was, I think it's Prince Mukoteti, who was then telling the world that there are two factions at NPA, and he then said that he and others, I think Jiba and Mkhwebe and others that I don't know, are regarded as the Zuma people. And I found that distasteful because I've never belonged to any faction at NPA and I was not aware of any faction. But what was happening when they were using, especially him, also he was used, Mr. Mukoteti, in my pursuit, because at one stage he came up with information that he was investigating me of 2 murder charges. I did not even know what he was talking about. We asked him about that, and I said to him I didn't want to interfere with what he was doing because it was part of his investigations, but I expressed my concern that I don't think that he was suitable to conduct an investigation of that nature against me as the head of the institution, but nevertheless I said to him I didn't want to interfere with him.
I'm sorry, who was investigating?
It was Mr. Prince Mukoteti,
Okay.
who was later on, I think was later on, he later resigned at NPA when he was held before a disciplinary hearing. He resigned and was later on appointed, as I read in the media, that he was appointed as head of the Hawks in Gauteng. I don't know whether he's still the head of the Hawks there. Then I became worried when members of the staff of the NPA were also used. And I then decided to conduct investigations at NPA, because I felt that this was interfering with the stability of the NPA. Especially at the senior management level, I then obtained the opinion from Senior Counsel Patrick Ellis regarding the various criticisms by the High Courts and the Supreme Court of Appeal against Advocate Jiba, Advocate Mkhwebe, and Advocate Mzinyati. I also then appointed the fact-finding commission headed by the retired Justice of the Constitutional Court, Justice Yaqub, to look into the instability and the leakage of information at NPA. I also prepared the memorandum that...
Before you go there,
Yes.
in relation to the Yaqub inquiry,
Yes.
did you give any instructions to Advocates Jiba and Mkhwebe?
Chair, I gave instructions to everyone. I gave instructions to everyone to cooperate with that inquiry of Justice Yaqub, even myself. But Justice Yakub found resistance with Advocate Mkhwebi and Advocate Jiba. They refused to participate. Despite my repeated calls that they should do so, they flatly refused.
The purpose of that inquiry, did you say, was to establish what the causes of the instability at the NPA were? Is that what you said?
Yes, Chair, there was some instability at the NPA at the time, and there were media leakages at the time, and I wanted the Justice Yakub to investigate who are behind all of this, and also to come up with recommendations, what should happen. Also, including the criticisms, obviously, by the courts, what action had to be taken over and above the opinion that one had sourced from the senior counsel.
So, you say there were certain judgments of high courts and the Supreme Court of Appeal where the three advocates, namely Jiba, Mkhwebi, and Mzinyati, different courts of the three had criticized some of them.
That is correct.
Each one criticizing either, well, maybe one criticizing all three or criticizing two, another one criticizing another one, and then the Supreme Court of Appeal. And you took these judgments, you gave to senior counsel and asked for an opinion as to whether there is anything that should be done about them. Is that right?
That is correct, yeah.
You got that opinion,
Yes.
and then you asked Justice Yakub to look at the instability at the NPA and the leaks of information that were happening in the NPA, and establish the causes thereof, and make recommendations as to what should be done to deal with the instability and the leaks. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Then you were about to refer to a memorandum prepared by Advocate Nell.
That is correct, Chair.
What position did Advocate Nell occupy at the time?
Advocate Gerard Nell was a legal advisor in my office.
Right. And was that memorandum signed by someone else other than Advocate Nell?
Yes, I had instructed Mr. Advocate Gerard Nell to prepare that memorandum on my behalf. But shortly after he had prepared it, I left. I took leave of office, I think, for 2 days. I appointed Mr. Hofmeyer to act whilst I was on leave. And Mr. Hofmeyer signed off the memorandum and sent it to the Minister Masuta.
Right. Is that memorandum attached to your statement?
That is correct.
Would you look at page 34, please?
I see an affidavit, page 34, Mr. Pretorius.
Yes. The memorandum that you refer to, was that transposed into an affidavit?
Chair, the affidavit that Mr. Pretorius is referring me to is an affidavit that was deposed to by Mr. Hofmeyer in the High Court, Western Cape Division. But it refers largely on the memorandum that he signed.
It contains the same information
The same
that was
information
in the
yes,
memorandum?
Yes.
Okay.
You say in paragraph 43.3, the affidavit annexure MN2, which appears at page 34 and following, deals with circumstances relevant to the memorandum.
That is correct, Chair.
So do I understand it correctly, the memorandum prepared by Advocate Nell contained certain information which was taken then by Mr. Willie Hofmeyer and then put into his affidavit?
That is correct, Chair.
Would you look at page 34? Is that the affidavit you're referring to?
That is correct, Chair.
Right. We will deal with excerpts from that to the extent necessary later. Did you have dealings with the General Counsel of the Bar concerning the conduct of Advocates Jiba Mkhwebi and also Ms. Nyati?
Yes, Chair, based on the opinion that I received from Senior Counsel Patrick Ellis, then I referred correspondence to the General Counsel of the Bar, asking them to investigate the conduct of its members, Advocate Jiba Mkhwebi and Advocate Mzinyati, based on the criticisms leveled against them by the various courts.
And still enumerating the steps that you took to address the instability within the NPA as you describe it, did you take any steps to improve the relationship between yourself and Advocates Jiba Mkhwebi and Ms. Nyati?
Yes, Chair, I did. I remember even at one stage, I tried to really to be open to them. I tried to reach out to them. Advocate Jiba, at one stage, I even suggested to her that perhaps we just needed to go out, just me and her, out for tea or coffee and just discuss and have a frank discussion about ourselves. And Advocate Mkhwebi, I tried my best to reach out.
Well, what was the response from Ms. Jiba before you go to
No,
Mr.
she
Mkhwebi?
smiled. She just smiled, Chair.
Oh,
She smiled and
she didn't
yeah.
say anything
She
other
didn't say
than just
anything,
smile.
she just smiled, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, Advocate Mkhwebi, I remember we even had a trip to London. There, I would, without fail, every morning, come to at breakfast, go and greet him personally. We would eat together with other members of the
Delegation.
of the delegation, and he will sit alone. I will approach him. I will exchange pleasantries. I tried to accommodate him, but to my dismay, I thought that things were okay. We're getting on very well. But then I subsequently learned that he castigated one of the delegation who he had seen in my company around there. He castigated him for sucking up to me, but I didn't even take an issue about that. But I continued to treat him as a professional and also as a colleague. At no stage did I shout at him.
When you approached him every morning while you were in London at breakfast, and you would greet him and, as you say, exchange, exchange pleasantries, whether that's how you put it. But what was the response from him?
Chair, Advocate Mkhwebi is such a very nice person. Such that I would ask myself, what really would happen after I thought we were getting on very well, and after I would hear some stories, things that he was doing together with Advocate Chiba, because when he was with me, he would be a very nice person, same as Chiba. They were the nicest person ever. And
In
Advocate
front of you?
in front of me. Well, Advocate Zinyati is exceptional. He's such a nice person also. And I remember I told him that unfortunately, this is what I have to do. We worked very well
You
because
mean Advocate Mzinyati?
yeah, with Advocate Mzinyati, we get on very well with him. He's such a very humble, very professional person. We had
Oh, I don't know why I thought Advocate Mzinyati was a lady.
no. It's a.
Yeah, it's a
He
man.
has the Xhosas. They are named Sbongile. It's a,
Oh, I
the
think.
males. He's a
no,
male.
I think that must be because.
because of the
yeah,
first name. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, people confuse him. They think it's a
Yes, no,
female.
I think
it's,
now
it's
I
actually
understand.
a male. Yeah.
Because you are right with, I mean, isiZulu and
And
isiXhosa
it's
are
Xhosa,
very
that's
close.
where the problem. Yeah.
And some of the names of people are the same,
Yes.
but you'd find that a particular name
In
exists
Xhosa,
among the Zulus and exists among the Amaxhosa.
and particularly Sbongile.
But with Amaxhosa, that name would be for a female,
And
or would be
both-
used for
both
both.
males and females,
Whereas
yes.
with Amazulu, it
It's
would
only
only
for
be for
females,
male,
yes.
like Fikile,
Yes.
and then Sbongile.
Sbongile.
But those two among Amazulu would always be females.
Females. Yes.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
it's
So
a
I think
male.
that must be what also made me think it was
Yeah.
a female, but
Yeah,
you
in
say
fact-
it's a man,
In
yeah.
fact, he is the director of public prosecutions in the North Gauteng division. Advocate Mzinyati.
Yes, okay, yes. So you say he's a very nice person,
A very nice person.
and you got on very well,
We got on very well, even to this day. We get on
even
very
today.
well. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But I think he understood that it's the job that I had to do.
Yes,
And I
yes.
did not pass any judgment on
Yes.
any of them. I
Yes.
was merely doing my work. I think he understood that.
Yes, yes.
At no
yes.
stage did he feel that I was paging him in any way.
Yes, yes. But you say Mr. Mkhwebi and Ms. Jiba, at least in your presence, they
They-
were also very nice
They're
people.
very nice. They
It's
presented
just that
themselves.
afterwards you'd hear other things.
Other things, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Chair, is this a convenient time? We will
Yes.
make preparations to play the recording.
Yes, okay. We'll take the short adjournment and resume. Is it fine if we resume at 12:30, or should we make more time with the preparation that you are going to make?
I would like to look at the relevant extract again.
Yes.
So perhaps an extra 5 minutes.
Yes, so we'll resume at 25 to 12.
Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn.
All rise.
Yes, are you ready?
DCJ, we have re-engineered the bundle. Exhibit EE5 is no longer the transcript of the evidence given previously by
Yes.
Mr. Nkosana. It
Yes.
is on your desk or on your
Yes.
table in a separate
Yes, thank you.
Exhibit EE5 now is the transcript of the recording at
Yes.
page 197 and following. 197 is simply an affidavit of the person who did the transcription.
Yes,
And the transcription, I'm informed of the conversation. There's other material which is irrelevant on the recording.
Yes.
Is at page 201 and following. I must say, Chair, that I've looked at it during the adjournment, and for the life of me, do not follow the references, but if Mr. Nkosana can help, then he can help
that is in the transcript.
in the transcript.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't listened to the recording, but I'm assured that the transcript accurately reflects what was said
Okay.
in more than one language
Oh, okay,
on the recording.
okay.
So in accordance with your request, it's not long, Chair, perhaps
Yes.
we can play the recording.
Yes,
You could indicate, or the witness could indicate where it needs to be stopped
yes,
for commentary.
yes. Okay, no, that's all right.
Before-
My inclination is, I don't know how long is the
It's a few minutes,
clip?
4
My
minutes.
inclination would be to listen to the whole of it, unless either you or Mr. Nkosana wishes that we stop somewhere for some clarification to be given. And then if we don't have that, then the clarifications could be
Yes.
given
Well,
afterwards.
in the light of that, Chair, it also is my own preference that we
Yes,
hear the whole thing.
yes,
And then
yes.
ask Mr. Nkosana to explain where
Yes.
the confirmation is that he attested to.
Yes, yes,
Because the references are obscure, so I don't
Yes.
see it. Maybe he will
Yes.
be able to explain that.
yes.
Mr. Nkosana, have you followed what the chair has now said? We're going to play the recording.
Yes, Chair, I was following.
Yes,
We're going to play the recording from beginning to end. That recording of the conversation between Mr. Joubert and Colonel Mhlongo.
Yes.
Once that has been concluded, you can tell us where in that recording there is confirmation of the parts of the evidence that you gave.
Okay, I will do that.
Because,
Yes.
quite frankly, it's not immediately apparent from the transcript. Okay.
yeah, and if in order to, if it would assist to later on play certain parts of the recording, that can be done as well. Okay, all right.
So in short, we'll play the whole recording. We'll ask you to confirm what was said as you testified to earlier, or not said as you testified to earlier. And then if you require certain portions to be replayed, as the chair indicates, we can facilitate that.
No problem, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ushapu, yasimfutile ngibo support yakho yazi buka kodwa hayi ngakubuza yini ngoba njani ngakubuza yakho hayi ngakubuza yini wathi nje ngathi maseto sakho ngiba photo kama ngubule ngizama yonke information mina angikho manje
I couldn't hear earlier on, and I'm not sure if I can hear now the actual words. I just hear some noise and that some people, somebody is speaking, but not the actual words.
hayi ngakubuza yini ngoba njani ngakubuza yakho hayi ngakuzakile uziwajonge ngathi masedoda yeah. Usharp, ngiyasifuthilela ngibona support yakho hey yazi bona kodwa hayi ngakuzakile ntombazana hayi ngakuzakile hayi ngakuzakile uziwajonge ngathi masedoda so information kula mina azikho manje kudwana akekho manje ngekho yeah.
Is that the conversation already with Mr. Yube? I seem to hear some Zulu, what appear to be Zulu words.
Yeah, be confident.
Oh.
Yeah, if nothing, you'll have to come here to rest management. You know, I was
Sorry.
thinking, I told Ramana when he was here, you know, there's only one person.
I can't hear a word. I hear that there's somebody speaking, maybe more than one person. I don't know whether it's the noise or what it is, but the clarity that is supposed to be there so that I can hear the actual words being spoken isn't there. I don't know whether it's because maybe I'm at a certain distance away from the instrument or what. I don't know if other people are able to hear.
Well, certainly I can't, Chair.
Yes. Mr.
I'm
Ngasson,
just-
are you able to hear from where you are, other than when you may have listened to it privately? Are you
I
able to hear now
I can now hear, I don't know whether perhaps that is because
because you know?
I know but we haven't come to the actual conversation
Yes.
relevant to the
You
matter.
think when we get there, it might be clearer?
Perhaps, I don't know. That's why I was signaling to him that he must just fast forward it.
Yes.
And I'll tell him where.
Yes. Okay, maybe let him fast forward to where the real conversation starts that we are interested in, and let's see if one might be able to hear that. And the technician maybe will bear in mind what I've said. Maybe there is something that needs to be done technically to make sure one can hear. I think we did have something like that when I was hearing evidence or recording relating to the Waterkloof landing. And I think I took 5 minutes adjournment, and when I came back, we could hear better. I could hear better. I don't know if that's the same problem. Let's start and let's see whether there is improvement.
You know, I was thinking, I told Ramana when he was here, you know, there's only one person. Ah, yeah, yeah.
People, is a contract. He's heading this week, but he's a contract.
But no,
His
okay.
contract. They can protect him tomorrow. And his contract has to release month by month, but he's the head of all them, they're permanent.
In the NPA, yeah.
Are we already on the conversation?
No.
Chair, I'm informed that the recording contains a portion where Colonel Mhlongo was speaking
To somebody else?
in a different conversation,
Yes.
whilst
Or he was
Mr.
being
Joubert
recorded?
was, as it were, holding on.
Yes.
So perhaps we can get to that portion, it's not
Yes.
long, and
Let-
see if at that portion where the conversation takes place, it is clearer.
Yes, let's get to the real conversation we are interested in.
Do you know where it is?
Balo,
Flat, Mandalay, release month by month. And
RAF.
for that day,
No, I mean, our whole point here is one. Collection, no. Our thing here with the boss, these guys from RAF tomorrow morning, all I'm gonna do, I'll link you up with them so that you can get all the documentation. The thing that I don't want, I'm just bringing A to B. Lava Bantubawa, I don't want to know them. I don't want to know them. I go to you, I say,
This portion, Chair, appears at page 203. In other words, in the transcript
On the transcript, 2003.
MSON 2003 at line 15.
Okay. Yes, okay.
Carry on, please.
you, WS Abobo na Uzbanban, Ms. Banban, because if it comes back, and this woman, okay, she gets the post back, through these
I
months.
go to know.
Yeah, but, I mean, she can know about it later on, and I'm Sagasan. But for now,
And when I don't see her, it's because not a good.
yeah, no,
You
you,
should pack to another. I'll go to it somewhere today.
Yeah.
Pack it go to
Yeah.
And you know that I couldn't be like.
because there you free. You are all mudu ngakutshela phaya. But if inansika yam is one. Ezinto sinayo, like this murder case of yours manje, the uncle and all that. Guys, singalali phezu information. Get whatever you can get your hands on. Broer masisheshe, because tomorrow, hey, as you say, this woman is in a hurry. Nah, she's full with us. Where are we going? Because as a full yeah. So from my side, it's just that this whole thing of the visit and this party and all that, up until Friday, I will be up down. But sure thing, tomorrow, Dingati Elliot, because unsebenzisi icingo lami. Sisebenziseni shikashe that the ready dingathi bana nawuphi okay class hola boss na umuntu wami hlangana nina nizawusota lento ngokweni then you can send your guys to do the collection yabona thina singaveli that way at least she's sharp, she's safe. But tomorrow, I mean on Thursday, you see, okay, the Amtembu Uchib, because Mteas, umuntu wami. Umem wakho and Mtembi, because Funo so this I'll stay out of war part. But I hope that you have cleared the way, man, because unfortunately,
Just stop. There is very little improvement between what I was hearing earlier and what I'm hearing now. I still can't hear a full sentence. I don't know whether has your hearing improved, Mr. Pretorius?
No better or worse than yours, Chair.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it may be the recording itself, which could be technically enhanced.
Yes.
It may be how the recording is being played.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's being played over speakers
Yes.
over there, and I'm not sure it's coming across
Yeah, it's not
on the speakers.
yeah.
And perhaps over the long adjournment we can
Yeah.
deal with that.
Yeah. And I wonder whether people at the back are hearing better than us. They shake hands. It looks like really nobody hears. So there's no point in continuing with it. Maybe either the current technician or whoever may assist can look at what needs to be done technically to make sure that we can hear.
Yes, I suspect it may have something to do with how it's being broadcast
Yeah,
from the
I do.
recording, because I don't hear it over all these speakers.
Yeah, maybe. So the technician can look at that, and if need be, maybe after lunch we can revert to it. If he or she, I don't know, I can't see if it's a he or a she, if he or she needs assistance from colleagues who are technicians, she can do that, because it would be, I would love to hear it,
Yes.
if at all possible. Okay, I think we will have to continue, and other people will try and look into that issue with a view that if possible after lunch we could try again.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Nkosana, can we go then back to page 10 of your affidavit
Yes, Chair.
at paragraph 43.6?
Yes, Chair.
You've told the Chair what steps you took to address what you referred to as instability within the NPA.
Yes, Chair.
And you've told the Chair in particular about your relationship with advocates Jiba, Mkhwebe and Mzinyati in this regard.
That is correct, Chair.
Did you make any requests to hold a meeting with the President? And what was, if so, what was the purpose of those requests? You deal with that in paragraph 43.6.
Yes, Chair. As I've indicated earlier, I was more concerned about what I was hearing, the rumor that was going around, and I wanted to see the President. I was not getting any joy. I made all attempts, including to contact Mr. Harley, as I've indicated, which I managed. In one instance, I managed to meet him on N1 in Midrand. And subsequently, he then, I think he wrote me letters to where he was telling me that he intended to institute an inquiry, or maybe before that, I think I received letters where I was asked to comment by certain particular dates, the comments that are attributed to me, which are in the media, amongst other things, my involvement in a matter where I was charged and acquitted of murder.
If I may ask you to pause there, Mr. Nkosana.
Yeah.
I think you're going ahead.
Oh, yeah.
And if you could go back, please, to paragraph 43.6. In other words, before we deal with the charges that were contemplated against yourself, I'd like you just to first deal with the contents of paragraph 43.6 and following.
Oh, okay, I understand. Yes, I also made requests to the President as well. After I had sent him the the memorandum, I requested him to consider instituting disciplinary action, to taking disciplinary action against advocates Jiba, Mkhwebe and Mzinyati.
So your decision was to institute disciplinary action against advocates Jiba, Mkhwebe and Mzinyati.
That is correct.
You requested
No.
a meeting with the President to
No, I'm
discuss
sorry,
this.
Mr. Pretorius. I think the two of you got mixed up. You said his decision was to institute disciplinary action, and he said yes, but I think his decision was to request the President to institute, not for him to institute himself. because the power was rested with the president, isn't it, Mr. Ngasano? You
Yes.
could not institute any
Yes, no.
distraction yourself.
No, not myself.
Yes.
You're quite correct, Chair. Your decision was to initiate a process,
That is correct, Chair.
as you say in paragraph 43.7.
That is correct.
Of course, you couldn't make the final decision.
Yes,
And you wished to discuss this with the President.
with the
is that
president,
correct?
yes.
Was there any response to your request?
Chair, the response that I received, if my memory serves me well, I think I received a response from the Minister of Justice, Mr. Masuta.
What did he tell you?
Basically, he threw the ball back at me and asked me to explain what measures I had taken in addressing all those issues. And I wrote back to him and indicated that I had caused a memorandum to be submitted to him for onward transmission to the president. And we are still waiting for the president to intervene and take a decision to institute the disciplinary action against the
I think
advocates.
it will be important, maybe after lunch, Mr. Pretorius, the sequence, that sequence and the actual correspondence dealing with those things is attached to either Mr. Hathorn's affidavit or Naidu in the Corruption Watch or in CASAC application. I think they could be very useful in terms of the terms of the correspondence as well. So I think he can continue and give evidence, and then during the lunch break, maybe he could look at that affidavit. I think those records are available. That's something that was that went up to the constitutional court.
Yes.
And then, so he can give evidence about it, and then later on we can go into the correspondence.
Yes, we have the affidavit here.
Yeah.
To put it to Mr. Nkasana, but perhaps to get copies
Yes,
and
get
speak
copies.
to him about it
Yes,
over the long
yes.
term.
And the annexures, because the memorandum also is there, is attached, if I recall correctly.
We now have that memorandum,
Okay.
and
okay.
that can also be presented.
Okay. Okay.
Do you recall a meeting at Emperor's Palace, a meeting of what you referred to in paragraph 43.8 as the NPA meeting?
That is correct, Chair.
Did that meeting take place in March 2014 or March 2015? Or when did it take place? You say here it took place in March 2015.
Chair, I think it would have been in March 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I think that's an error.
So
That is 43.8, is that where you are?
yes, Chair.
Oh, okay. So that 2015, you say must be an error, Mr. Ngasana?
It must be an error. If I look at paragraph 44, what follows thereafter, it must have been 2014,
Okay.
but I stand to be corrected.
Yes.
Yes.
Did Minister Masuta say anything to you about your request to the President to intervene, as you've testified?
Yes, Chair, he told me that the President had agreed to intervene, and to intervene as I had requested, but he never did.
I'm sorry, if this is March 2014, am I correct in understanding that that meeting at Emperor's Palace that is referred to at paragraph 43.8 would have happened after you had requested the President to consider suspending Ms. Jiba and Mr. Mkhwebi and sending the memorandum which gave him the basis, or what you thought was a basis for him to act?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, so that was much earlier. I think earlier on I may have said July, August, so that was much earlier. It was much earlier than that. It was before March.
But
The request for the president to do something.
I think, Chair, I can verify this information
Oh,
about the Emperor's Palace. When was that meeting? I remember the meeting vividly, but I cannot recall the date now. But
yeah,
at that meeting,
yes. But also, it may be that because paragraph 43.8 talks about the president having, the minister saying to you, the president had agreed to intervene. Maybe, did you at some stage simply request him to intervene, and that request being separate from requesting him to consider suspending Ms. Jiba and Mr. Mkhwebi and instituting disciplinary proceedings against them? Could those have been separate and different requests at different times?
it was at different times, Chair.
Yes.
The meeting at Emperor's Palace, I think it was a workshop organized by I think it dealt with corruption. It was organized by NPA. I cannot remember which unit. I attended that meeting, and Minister Masuta was also present at that meeting. But what he was confirming to me is that after I had submitted to him the memorandum and everything, the file wherein I had asked the president to consider taking disciplinary action against Advocates Jiba, Mkhwebi and Mzinyati. That was his response on that day, that the president has finally agreed to intervene and was considering my taking action against the advocates.
So does that mean that you are clear in your own mind that the meeting at Emperor's Palace took place after you had requested the president to consider suspending Ms. Jiba and Mr. Mkhwebi?
That I'm
and
clear now.
after you had submitted a memorandum which you believed set out the basis for him to act?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, let's just place your evidence now in context, Mr. Nkosana. As I understand your evidence, in relation to the conduct of Advocates Jiba and Mkhwebi and Advocate Mzinyati,
Yes.
you had to rely on information provided to you by other NPA officials. And that is why you obtained a memorandum from Advocate Nell and Mr. Willie Hofmeyer.
That is correct.
Right. Chair, insofar as it's necessary to deal with that detail, that will be dealt with directly. It just seems to me that the purpose of what you're saying to the Chair now is to say that based on information you had received, which we can place before the Chair in due course, you had taken a decision to at least initiate disciplinary proceedings against the advocates involved.
That is correct.
And you had requested a meeting with the minister, with the president to deal with that.
That is correct, Chair.
Right. And that is the background to the evidence which you are going to give now as to what happened to you at that stage.
That is correct. Chair.
So, Chair, insofar as the content of those memoranda and affidavits are concerned, they're there, but the direct evidence should perhaps be given by others because it does implicate people quite seriously.
Well, while you were asking questions, I was thinking about the sequence of events that we talked about a few minutes ago. And I see he, on some of these things about the sequence, he is not, his recollection might not be good. That might be because he might need to look at documents to refresh his memory. I was wondering whether we shouldn't break for lunch a little earlier than normal, so that he gets a chance to look at the correspondence which is attached to Mr. Hathorn's affidavit. And when we come back, he can then deal with those very easily. There's correspondence that is important. It gives the dates of his attorneys writing to the presidency and the presidency to the president's legal advisor writing to her. I think it's very important and useful sequence of events. As I say, it's something that's already in court records in a matter that went up to the corruption matter and the Kazakh matter.
We'll do that.
So
Chair.
maybe we should look at breaking at 12:30 to give more time for lunch and looking at the documents, and then when we come back, then we can just
Just
take
to
it forward.
establish the sequence.
The sequence.
Yes,
And
that doesn't obviate the need to get the direct evidence from
No, it
elsewhere.
doesn't. It doesn't. It's just that it's important, I think, from the perspective that he made a certain request as the NDPP to the president, that the president should consider taking certain action against certain people within the organization. If he had the power, I'm sure he would have taken the decision himself. And what we then see is certain sequence of events and correspondence, and then the timing can be important, because if all of that happened before and then no action was taken against the two, but instead action was taken against him,
Correct.
that sequences can be very important. What did the president know about both him and about Ms. Mjiba and Ms. Mkhwebi? And when the president is given a chance to deal with this matter, he may have to indicate, justify taking action against the one and not the other, and so on. So it's important that he can deal with it properly.
Yes, what we know so far, Chair, is what is contained on pages 9 and 10, that memoranda, affidavit, documentation was prepared
Yes,
and transmitted to the minister for
yes,
onward transmission to the president.
yes.
That was accompanied by requests for meetings
Yeah,
and an expectation that it would be followed up,
yes,
and that the report we now presume is in March 2014, but it may be necessary to clarify that the president had agreed to intervene, failure to intervene, and then steps taken. That's the
Yes.
sequence as I understand it, but I understand
Yes.
your concern is that
yeah,
there's further evidence in relation to that sequence in the affidavit of Attorney Hawthorne, and we'll
yeah,
put that to the witness
Yes.
over the long adjournment.
yeah, no, that's fine, thank you.
What happened then, let's assume for the moment, and we will check this over the long adjournment, Mr. Nkasana. Let's assume that the Emperor's Palace meeting took place in March 2014,
Yes,
where you were informed that the President had agreed to intervene as requested or proposed by yourself.
yes,
You say that there was a failure to act in accordance with what you had been told would happen.
that is correct, Chair.
But
Maybe, sorry, Mr. Pretorius. In your affidavit, you have used the word intervene. Is that because that's what you were told by the minister, that the president had agreed to intervene? Or did he tell you that the president had agreed to initiate a disciplinary process, but in your affidavit you have simply said he agreed to intervene? Or is that the word that was used by the minister? Because then, if that's the word that the minister used, I want to understand what your understanding was of what intervening in that situation meant.
Chair, although I cannot recall precisely what the minister said, but my understanding during our discussion was that he said to me, the president had acceded to my request and he was going to act. That is the
Oh,
whole point.
that's what he said.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What then happened a few months after March 2014, in July 2014? And this is now direct evidence from yourself.
I think in July 2014, I then received communication from the president. I remember it was very late at night. It came through my email. He was advising me that he had taken a decision to institute a commission of inquiry to determine my fitness to hold office as the National Director of Public Prosecutions.
When you say you were informed, how were you informed? Was it directly by the president or was it through his legal representatives?
No, it was through his personal assistant. I cannot recall the name of this young man. His personal assistant. He sent me the email, and I received it on my handset. I responded by acknowledging receipt of it and noted the contents.
And in July, the same month, towards the end of the month, did you receive another communication?
Yes, I did receive another communication from the president, also from the same guy. I've forgotten his name, but he was his personal assistant, or he was aide. He's aide, advising me that the president intended suspending me pending the inquiry, and that the terms and the dates and time and venue of the said inquiry was going to be communicated to me in due course. And I was then called upon to make submissions why I should not be suspended pending the said inquiry.
Now, how long after the Emperor's Palace meeting was this, more or less, when you were told that the president was going to suspend you?
Chair,
You can't remember?
I can't remember.
Yeah, okay, maybe after lunch. It should be possible after lunch because there is correspondence in the record about all of that.
Would you go to page 135, please?
Did you say page 135?
Yes, Chair.
The top page, of course. Not this, not the other.
I'm sorry, MSON 046.
46. Yes.
You have the top right-hand corner. Mr. Nkosana, there's some letters followed by numbers.
It's page
46.
page 46.
It's annexure MN3.
Yes, I have it with me.
What is this document?
It's a letter dated the 4th of July 2014, which I received from President Jacob Zuma. It's a notice of institution of inquiry.
And it's dated 4 July 2014.
That is correct.
And then if you would go to page 48, please.
Page 48 is a letter I received from President Zuma dated the 30th of July 2014, titled Notice of Intention to Suspend in terms of Section 12, subsection 6A of the National Prosecuting Authority Act 32 of 1998.
Yes. Paragraph 2 of that letter reads, "You are no doubt aware that the National Prosecuting Authority is an important constitutional institution in the administration of justice, and that maintaining public confidence in the institution is of necessity. In consideration of maintaining the integrity of the National Prosecuting Authority, and in particular its good administration, I am giving consideration to suspending you on full pay pending the finalization of the inquiry to which I've referred." It reads further, "The inquiry will examine your fitness to hold the office as National Director of Public Prosecutions, having regard to whether and what was contemplated by the President at that time in relation to the subject matter of the inquiry." You can read if you wish.
It was, he said, "The inquiry will examine my fitness to hold the office as National Director of Public Prosecutions, having regard to whether, one, the criminal convictions which I possess for violent conduct, two, reported comments in the media are unbecoming of a National Director of Public Prosecutions, divisive, and have the effect of bringing the National Prosecuting Authority into disrepute. And lastly, three, the lack of disclosure of the facts and circumstances of prosecutions which I faced are consonant with the conscientiousness and integrity of an incumbent to the office of National Director of Public Prosecutions as required by the Act." Then I was required to furnish the President with written representations in this regard by no later than 1,500 hours or 1,600 hours on Friday 1 August 2014.
That's a day or so later, 2
Yes.
days later. But if you could go back, please. It's not our intention to hold trials within a trial, but did you have criminal convictions for violent conduct?
I had criminal convictions for assault common.
Right. Had these been disclosed?
Yes.
And then reported comments in the media. Do you know to what comments reference was here being made?
To this date, Chair, I don't know what the President was referring to as the media comments, because I personally wrote a letter asking him to furnish me with the particulars of what he meant about the media comments, and he failed to do that.
And the alleged lack of disclosure of facts and circumstances of prosecutions, and I presume that's something different from convictions, which you faced. Do you know what was being referred to here?
In the same letter, Chair, before I applied for an interdict against the President, we had made that request to the President to explain, to give me particulars of what he meant about those matters, which he did not do. And I still don't know what he was referring to. In his response, I think he said I should know what he was referring to, in a nutshell.
The assault that you you talk about, that you had a conviction for, is that right?
Yes, Chair.
When had that conviction happened, and when had the incident that gave rise to it happened?
Chair, it was in, I think, 1986 at Kwanongoma.
Yes.
And I remember even when I applied to register for my articles of clerkship as an attorney.
Yes.
That was one of the requirements because I disclosed.
Yes.
But I even went to Nongoma charge office and Nongoma court, and I couldn't find the records because of the very
The lapse of time.
because of the lapse of time. Yes.
So this was the reference to violent conduct insofar as it related to your conviction for assault. It related to something that had happened, more than 30 years ago, or previously, as at the time you were being asked about this.
That is what one could only assume, because the president was not forthcoming about what he meant about my violent conduct.
Oh, so you never got information from the president
What he
giving you full information whether what you were thinking he was talking about was
That-
exactly what he was talking about.
That is correct, Chair.
You speculated
That is
as
correct.
to what it might refer to.
At one point, in the same letter, he referred to my previous convictions of assault. And then in another point, he referred to my my previous convictions involving violent conduct. Then I did not know what he meant,
He was talking about.
what he was talking about. Hence, I wrote to him and asked him to give me full particularities of what he meant, and he failed to do that.
But I think what the chair is asking about, in your knowledge,
Yes.
was there any other conviction or prosecution other than the one that you recall?
Those are the only convictions that I knew, and the prosecution of the murder charge for which I was acquitted in 1985. That is one that I know. And there was also reference to an incident where which I disclosed as well, which he also asked me about, where I was stopped by police I was driving a car and they stopped me. They said I was driving inconsiderately, and the matter was, I did not even appear in court. It was not placed on the roll. That was in, I think, 2013 or 2012, before I was appointed.
All right, leave that one aside for the moment,
Okay.
and let's restrict ourselves to convictions or prosecutions. Is it your evidence that the only incidents which could have feasibly formed the subject matter of such an inquiry by the President or such a statement happened, you say, when?
In 1985, 84 and 85, yeah.
Then let's go to paragraph 50, please. Under the head, My Rights to a Fair Hearing, you deal at length with your response to the notice of suspension,
Yes, sure.
or the notice of intention to suspend, or the notice to consider suspending you.
Yes, sure.
Well, Mr. Pretorius, what page is that?
12.
Oh, okay. I think maybe we should take the adjournment now.
Yeah, we've dealt with 48 by reference to the annexure.
Yes, no, that's fine. I think we should take the adjournment now, so that he can get a chance to look
Yes.
at those affidavits and the correspondence, and then we can then resume it too.
Yes. Chair, if I may just raise one issue before we
Yes.
adjourn. On pages 12 through to page 17, the statement summarizes procedural matters in relation to the suspension and the Kasim inquiry. It's our view that as neither the suspension nor the inquiry ever took place,
Yes.
these are procedural matters that we can summarize very briefly.
Yeah, you're asking if you can do that before
Yes,
we
Chair.
take the adjournment?
Yes.
Okay, all right, let's do
No,
that.
no, not before,
Oh,
after. I've
after.
just-
Okay, no,
Warning.
that's fine. I mean, if we wanted to do it now, we could do it, but then add more time after 2 before we resume.
No, Chair, it'll be very, very brief
Yes.
with your leave.
No, that's
I don't
fine,
intend to
yeah.
go into
we-
any detail.
No, no, that's fine.
And
that's
then
fine.
we'll start at page 18 again.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's fine. We will take the lunch adjournment then, and we'll resume at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn.
All rise.